Hello, I'm Calvin Morris and I'm here today to talk to you about something a little bit different. I'm going to talk to you today about a fan film, and I've never really talked about fan films. I watch fan films all the time. I'm a big supporter of fan films, but I've never really talked to you about them. So that's what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to be covering one particular fan film, and that is Star Trek New Voyages, The Holiest Thing, Director's Cut. Now, there's a little bit of a difference between the Director's Cut and the original cut, but I'm going to be focusing mainly on the Director's Cut here, and let's get right into it. So, this episode was directed by Darren R. Doctorman. It stars Brian Gross, Brandon Stacey and John Kelly. Where to begin? Well, let's talk about the production design, okay? Because I've been a massive supporter of Star Trek New Voyages since day one, since I saw Come What May, which it doesn't really hold up now, okay? But at the time when it came out, people were like, you know what, this is getting it, this understands it, this gets it. And ever since then, I've been on board supporting these guys in any way I've been able to over the years, and I really love what James Cawley and crew do, and they deliver some really top quality stuff. The bridge sets look amazing. All the sets look amazing. The props are brilliant. They are supremely accurate. The costumes are 100%. Everything production value wise in this show is as good as it was in the original show. Now, that being said, there are some drawbacks, and the drawbacks are that it's a fan film, and I want to measure this against other shows. I don't want to measure it as a fan film, and the reason being is that fan films tend to have a particular level, and I believe Star Trek New Voyages has gone over that level. There are times when I've been watching Star Trek New Voyages and just totally forgot that it was a fan film. Okay? In fact, The World, Enough and Time and To Serve All My Days are two episodes of Star Trek New Voyages that are my favourite episodes of Star Trek. Not fan films. They are two of my favourite episodes of Star Trek. Okay? That's how high quality these episodes are. So, what about The Holiest Thing? Well, let's get right into it. The production values, as I said, are really, really good. The sets look amazing. The visuals by Tobias Richter are fantastic. It all really, really polishes up until you get to the story. The story in this episode is very, very layered, and there are several themes running at multiple times. There are so many things going on, and I got a feeling that this, maybe there was some story editing issues, I don't know, but thematically this show doesn't know what the hell it is. This episode, is it a survivor story? Is it the seeds of a romance? Is it, you know, a whodunit? Is it a thriller? It really doesn't know. All these themes are running in parallel at the same time, and you can't really single one out and say that's what this show is about, and that becomes problematic throughout the show. Also, you're dealing with actors like Brandon Stacey, Brian Gross, John Kelly, Charles Root Jr., and I don't know what's happened here, because every single performance in this episode was there. It was just every single time somebody spoke, it was on this line. Brian Gross, for me, when he started speaking at the start of the episode, he lacked some sort of punch to his delivery. There was no real authority behind what he was saying. There was just a like I said, like a lack of punch to his dialogue. And it didn't really get over to me that he was the captain. I wasn't sold on the fact that he was the captain. The same could be said, like I said, Charles Root Jr. Oh dear, Charles. I like Charles Root Jr. I do. I genuinely, I promise you I do. But in this episode, he was so relaxed at some point during this episode, I thought he was going to fall asleep. His delivery was just so relaxed. And that was a problem with most of it anyway. Like I said, anytime there was back and forth dialogue, it lacked aggression, it lacked passion, it lacked punch, it lacked dynamics. It was just like, you talk, now I talk, you talk, now I talk, you talk, now I talk. It didn't, there was no ups and downs. And it's a shame. It is a shame because I felt that there was enough there in the story that they could have singled out something for one of the characters to grasp onto. Also, again, like I said, the themes of this story were lacking in that there were so many themes that it doesn't know what it is. Well, take for example the character of Carol Marcus. She is a character that in this episode survives when everybody else on her team dies. It's a survivor story. But you don't feel it. You don't feel that the character's gone through anything horrific. She has just lost everybody she's ever known that she works with for the past few years. And she doesn't seem broken up about it. It was just like, you know, it was just like, oh well, okay, they're all dead, let's get on with it. And as an example, I'm going to cite William Wyndham from The Doomsday Machine as somebody who lost everything. And that character was a strong person anyway. So that should give you some sort of example as to, even if they only started off at that point with Carol Marcus, and they could have built up, and then they could have worked in the relationship with Jim Kirk. But that didn't happen. And another fault with this episode comes down to the camera work. And the camera work has to take some of the responsibility here for audiences feeling distant from these characters. The main problem with the camera work in this episode is that it was very much a locked off camera, similar to what you're looking at right now. Unfortunately, it was locked off in a very, very tight close-up. It was often shooting people from here up, and it was often this close. So you never really had an opportunity to sort of relax. Those sort of camera angles are normally used to build tension and drama, and I'm not kidding you. If this had gone on for another 15 minutes, I think I would have pulled a muscle watching this episode. It was so tense. And when they were developing the romance between Kirk and Carol Marcus, that entire scene was shot as A-B shots. It was shooting her, then it was shooting him, then it was shooting her, then it was shooting him, then it was shooting her, then it was shooting him. It didn't shoot them both. And you get this one shot right at the end of that scene where the two of them are in the same shot together. And that's not how you want to shoot something like a romantic scene, romance blooming. That's not how you want to shoot that. I mean, let me just put a visual image into your head for a second, okay? Imagine two lovers sitting on a park bench. Okay? Got it in your head? Okay, now, are you imagining person A or person B, or are you imagining both of them? There you go. Okay? And that's what's wrong with the photography in this scene. Later on in this episode, the photography does actually include the two of them together and does actually work for them. But had they put that in the start of the episode, it would have been even better. It would have made sense to have done that. If these two had fallen out, then yeah, that's how I would have shot it. You, then you, then you, then you. You know, because you want to, that sort of shooting creates distance. And again, it was in such tight close-up that the tension was just, I mean, I was gripping the chair. I was just like, for God's sakes, back out! And again, it was all lock-off cameras. I didn't really see any dollying shots. There was a couple of shots where the camera pivoted, but I wasn't really looking at any sort of real movement to the scenes. Again, it's a shame, but it is exactly what it is. Another problem I had with this episode was the audio quality. Sometimes the audio quality was crisp, sharp, beautifully clear, and other times it sounded like people trapped in a cupboard. It was literally, "Oh, Captain, I think we got a phone over here." What was that? And but that's how it was. It was just varying up and down, and sometimes the audio levels were varying up and down. Plus that being layered with the sound effects, plus the music, it kind of made for some shoddy work. Now, some of the visuals in this episode also, I don't want to say it, but some of the visuals in this episode also were a letdown. You get some of these, particularly the scene where Spock and Carol Marcus are standing on the planet's surface. The composite in there just, I mean, you should have just gone out to a quarry and shot. You know, people wouldn't have minded. I know we've seen that sort of thing before, but lesser of two evils, people. And also, again, if I had to pull up anything on this episode, it was the fact that they kept fan servicing people. They kept dropping things like holodecks and Genesis and all that sort of stuff, and that's good stuff. You know, I every time those sort of things would get mentioned, you get fans going, "Hey!" But there was so much going on that sort of honey glaze doesn't work. You know, this episode was kind of like eating soup, dipping in a kebab in it, and then shoving a muffin in your mouth. It was, you know, you were getting your starter, your meal, and your dessert all in one, and it was just a little too much. The end of this episode as well also fizzles out. Some of the lighting looked flat and sterile. It wasn't what I'm used to, and that's the problem. I'm also comparing this to TV shows, but I'm also comparing this to previous New Voyage episodes, and I've got to say, done it better in the past. I don't want to rag on this because I think they do a good job, but even for Star Trek New Voyages, this episode was a big bump in the road. Again, the actors' performances were just flat. It just felt like it lacked emotion. Again, the story just didn't know, and that's the big problem. The story just didn't know what the hell it was. Is it all bad? Well, no, it's not. You still get some good character development in there. You get some really pretty looking things going on. But overall, if I had to give this episode, if I give The World Enough and Time a 9 out of 10, you can imagine that this episode is a 4. And that's where I'm going to leave it. I've really got nothing else to say about this episode. It's a shame that it is underperforming compared to other previous episodes. It looks good. It feels good. It feels like Star Trek. It just missed the mark. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Star Trek New Voyages, The Holiest Thing. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Also, feel free to like and comment on this video, subscribe to this channel, or go over and join me on Google+. But until next time, live long and prosper.